The war, it is not just in Iran right now. Tensions, they have divided to Cuba as well. Well, United States, Marco Rubio's warning to Cuba, it has suddenly reviewed memory many people believed belonged to history books. United States Secretary of State, he declared that Washington remains highly alert regarding any national security threat linked to Cuba. And the tone of the statement, it immediately shocked the observers across Latin America. This did not sound like a routine diplomacy. It sounded like strategic warning language, and instantly Cold War comparison returned. Now here older generations do remember how Cuba once pushed the world terrifyingly close to nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now that particular fear, it never fully disappeared inside American politics. Analysts believe that Washington may now be increasingly concerned about deeper cooperation between Cuba, China, Russia and Iran, and that too at a time when America is already struggling to manage crisis globally. In the meantime, Ukraine continues draining Western resources. Iranian tensions are escalating, China-Taiwan rivalry keeps intensifying, and now Cuba is suddenly returning to America's security calculation. Here, some experts believe that the United States intelligence agencies worry about the surveillance infrastructure, intelligence sharing, cyber operations, or foreign military influence expanding near the American territory. But others believe that the timing is political, designed to project strength before the election. And in the meantime, Havana reacted very angrily, by the way, accusing America of intermediation and political aggression. That's right. Cuban officials claim that Washington is deliberately creating fear in the region just to justify pressure campaign. But let's be honest, the ordinary Cuban population is now stuck in the middle of this geopolitical catfight. The country is already facing severe economic hardship, inflation, electricity blackout, food shortage, fuel scarcity, and mass migration here. Thousands of Cubans continue leaving the island, searching for stability abroad. Many fear that the tensions are going to be worse with America, and America could trigger harsher sanctions and deeper suffering for them. Latin American governments, they are watching very nervously because they worry that the whole region could once again become trapped between global superpowers. But critics are asking an uncomfortable question tonight. Can America realistically sustain confrontation with Iran, Russia, China and Cuba all at the same time without stretching itself dangerously thin? Because behind all the aggressive rhetoric, there is growing concern that Washington's global strategy may be under more pressure than it publicly admits. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine waking up and seeing headlines across major news channels saying that American bombers are moving closer to Iran again. Not routine aircraft, not surveillance plane, actual long-range B-1B bombers. Aircraft specifically associated with massive strike capability. Well, the kind of bombers America uses when it wants both enemies and allies to understand the whole situation has become extremely serious. And suddenly the whole West Asia, it began holding its breath. Reports claim that the United States repositioned strategic bombers while tensions with Iran exploded over Tehran's nuclear program here. And not just nuclear program, by the way, missile activity, growing military aggression in that particular region. In the meantime, their president, Mr. Donald Trump, he added even more uncertainty by refusing to clearly deny the military action here. And let's be honest, in geopolitics, silence can sometimes be more frightening than a threat. Because when Washington quietly moves the military assets, while leaders avoid direct answers, countries begin preparing for possibility of war behind the closed doors. In the meantime, Iran immediately responded with aggressive warning. Their powerful Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed that any strike on Iranian nuclear facility, it could trigger retaliation against American military bases, and that too across the Middle East. Bases in Iraq, Qatar, Bahrain, Syria and even naval forces in the Gulf. All of a sudden, it became possible target. Well, military analysts, they also began discussing how Iran could activate the proxy group network, and that too across Lebanon, Iraq, Syria and Yemen again, turning a single strike into a wider regional conflict almost overnight. In the meantime, oil markets became nervous because the world too understands one simple reality here. If the Gulf region becomes unstable, fuel prices globally can explode within hours. India, Europe, Asian economies, and even American consumers could all feel the impact through inflation and rise of energy cost. But perhaps the most dangerous part is that this is not Iraq in 2003. Iran today has advanced drones, underground missile cities, cyber warfare capabilities, naval attack system, and allies willing to challenge America indirectly. In fact, some experts believe Iran has spent years preparing for exactly this type of confrontation. China and Russia are also watching very carefully because any weakness shown by America, it could reshape the global balance of power. And tonight, millions are asking the same terrifying question. Is America using pressure diplomacy just to force Iran into submission, or are we witnessing the opening chapter of a much larger war that could destabilize entire world economy?